Chapter 3. The Spouter Inn. Entering that gable-ended Spouter Inn, you found yourself in a wide, low, straggling street with old-fashioned wainscots, reminding one of the bulwarks of some condemned old craft. On one side hung a very large oil painting, so thoroughly besmoked and defaced that only a diligent study you could anyway arrive at an understanding of its purpose. A baggy, soggy, squishy picture truly, enough to drive a nervous man distracted, yet there was some sort of indefinite, unimaginable sublimity that fairly froze you to it. You involuntarily took an oath with yourself to find out what this marvelous painting meant. Effort and anon a bright, but alas, a deceptive idea would dart you through. It's the Black Sea in a midnight gale. It's the unnatural combat of the four primeval elements. But stop! Does this not bear a faint resemblance to a gigantic fish? Even the great Leviathan himself? The picture represents a Cape Horner in a great hurricane, the half-floundered ship weltering there in its purpose, three dismantled masts alone visible, and an exasperated whale posing to spring clean over the craft, which an enormous act of impaling himself upon the three-mast head. The opposite wall of the sentry that hung all over the heedless array of monstrous clubs and spears. Some were thickly set with glittering teeth and resembling ivory saws. Others were tufted with knots of human hair, and one was sickle-shaped, with a vast handle of sweeping around like the segment that made in a new mow grass like by a larmard mower. You shuddered as you gazed, and wondered what monstrous cannibal and savage could ever have gone such a death harvesting, with such hackling, horrifying, and plain. Mixed with these were old rusty old whaling lances, harpoons all broken and deformed. Some were storied weapons. With this long lance, now wildly elbowed, 50 years ago did Nathan Swain kill 15 whales between a sunrise and a sunset. And that harpoon, like a corkscrew now, was flung in Javan seas and run away with by a whale. Years afterward, slain off the seas, slain off the Cape of Blanco. The iron entered nigh the tail, and like a restless needle shearing in the body of a man, traveled full 40 feet, and at last was found embedded in the hump. Crossing this dusty entry, though yon low-arched way cut through in what old times must have been a great central chimney with fireplaces all around. You enter the public room, a still dustier place than this, with such low ponderous beams above, with such old wrinkled planks beneath, that you would almost fancy you trod on some old craft's cockpits, especially with such a howling night. On one side stood a long, low, shelf-like table, covered cracked glass cases filled with dusty re-entries gathered from this wild world's remotest nooks. Projecting from the further angle, the room stands a dark-looking den, the barn, a rude attempt at a right whale's head. Be that how it may, there stands the vast arched bone of a whale's jaw, so wide a coach might almost drive beneath it. Within our shabby shelves, ranged round with old disintegrators, bottles, flanks, and those jaws destruction like another jaws of another swift destruction like another cursed Jonah, which the name they called him, bushels a little withered old man who for their money dearly sells the sailors duralumin and death. Abominable of the tumblers into which he pours his poison, though truly cylinders within, the villainous green goggling glasses deceitfully tapered downwards down to a cheating bottom. Parallel medrins rudely pecked into the glass surround these footpads goblet, filled to this mark, and your charge is but a penny, and this is a penny more. And so go on to the full glass, the Cape Horn measure, which you may gulp down for a shilling. Upon entering the place, I found a number of young seamen gathered at the table, examining by dim light divers specimens of scarandor. I sought the landlord, and telling him I desired to be accommodated in his room, received for the answer that his house was full. But avast, he added, tapping his forehead, you hain't no objections to sharing a harpooner's blanket, have you? I suppose you are going a whaling, so you better get used to that sort of thing. I told him that it would depend upon who the harpooner might be, and that if he, the landlord, really had no other place for me, the harpooner was not decidedly objectionable. Why rather than wander on so bitter a night, I would put up with half the descent and man's blanket. I thought so. All right, take a seat. Supper? You want supper? Supper'll be ready directly. I sat down an old wooden settle carved all over. At one end, a rummaging jar still further adorned with his jackknife, stooping over indignantly, working away at the space between his hind legs. He was trying at his hand a ship under full sail, but he didn't make much headway, I thought. At last, some 4 or 5 of us summoned to eat our cold in adjoining them. It was as cold as Iceland, no fire at all. The landlord said he couldn't afford it. We were fain to button up our monkey jackets and to hold our lips cups of scalding tea with our half-frozen fingers. The fare was the most substantial kind. Not only meat and potatoes, but dumplings, good heavens. Dumplings for supper. One young fellow in a green box coat addressed himself to the dumplings in a most dirtful manner. My boy, said the landlord, you'll have a nightmare to a dead sanitary. Landlord, I whispered, that ain't the harpooner, is it? Oh, no, he said, looking sort of diabolically funny. Harpooner's a dark complexion chap. He never eats dumplings. He eats nothing but steaks, likes them rare. The devil he does, says I. Where's the harpooner? He'll be here after long, was the answer. I could not help it, but I began to feel suspicious of this dark-complexioned harpooner.